Saigon and was involved in a night firefight, a perimeter firefight. His platoon was facing approximately 4,000 Viet Cong. In Chaz's, as we call him, Chaz, in his last radio transmission, he was told that the perimeter had been breached. With complete disregard for his safety, he ran to the area that the perimeter had been breached. He picked up a machine gun and he started shooting. What he didn't know at that time, that every man in his platoon was dead already. He was by himself. He killed approximately 200 to 300 Viet Cong. But here's the main thing that I keep thinking about with Chaz. If he's standing there on his machine gun and everybody around him is dead, and he's fighting 4,000 Viet Cong, he had to know that he wasn't going to survive this. But he never stopped fighting. He fought until he was killed. That's heroism in its greatest form. Let me talk a little bit about Sergeant James Parmersberger. First, I got to tell you about this guy. He was a little guy. In 1961, he was 5'6", 110 pounds, first team All-Star Valley Conference on the Fitch football team. And I keep thinking, even 50 years later, how's a guy that small do that? He was also the Fitch MVP in 1961 for our football team. So the young man was quite amazing before he got out of high school. But let me talk about his final day. Jimmy was in a mine-sweeping platoon right outside Saigon, and they were also involved in a night mission and encountered heavy enemy small arms fire and mortar fire from approximately 200 Viet Cong. This Marine sergeant voluntarily raised his hand to go out on that battlefield on his belly and administer aid to wounded Marines and to bring back everyone he could. Now that particular night, he saved several fellow Marines. On the last man he went out to get, a mortar came down and dropped right beside him. But there's something special about what he did. He had to hear that mortar coming in. He dropped down and laid on top of the man he went out there to administer aid to and saved that man's life. But he gave the ultimate sacrifice. He died that night. So what we have here is two Austintown heroes. All right, they gave the ultimate sacrifice in the service of their country. Over the last year, the committee that has been working on this, we've talked on several occasions about the heroism that we've seen out of these two young men. But at the same time, we also talked about the character that they had. Character beyond reproach. We attribute that to the way they were raised here in Austintown and to the education they received going through the Austintown school system. The same education that our young people in Austintown receive today. We need to be grateful that we have an administration that wants us to be the best. Our Board of Education, Larry talked about them, they don't get any better than those folks. Our superintendent, Vince Colaluca, his ultimate goal is to be the best here. Our school system, it just doesn't get any better. Somebody told me last week that Jimmy and Chaz died heroes. We don't think they died heroes. We think they died while being heroes. They gave their lives fighting for their country. And for all of us that are here today, when this memorial is done, and it will be done soon, it'll be a testament to the sacrifices these two men gave and the sacrifices that all veterans who have served their country gave. Jimmy and Chaz are our heroes for the class of '62, and they will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Lieutenant Brown has a grandson who has written a poem, was inspired obviously by his grandfather's heroic death. And committee member Claudia Bokish is now going to share that poem with us. Claudia.
The price of peace. Peace is a river flowing calm and clear until the storm of war draws near. Then the banks erode from the rising flood, and the stormy river flows red with blood. The river grows thirsty, and the huge storm thrives until its thirst is quenched with good people's lives. Only then, once satisfied, is the peace river restored to the calm, clear water that it was before. Peace it will sustain, and then peace it will reap. And restoring that peace is never free nor cheap. This was written by Brennan Kunka in 2009, grandson of Charles Brown.
With apologies to President Abraham Lincoln, I want to paraphrase a portion of a speech he made about 150 years ago at Gettysburg. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but Austintown must never forget what these men did. We're honored today to have with us State Senator Joe Schiavone from Ohio Senate District 33. Senator Schiavone approached the committee recently with a special request, and I'd like to welcome him this morning to share that request with us. Senator?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. You know, hearing the stories of these two men really puts all of our lives into perspective. You know, we think about all the stressful things that we have to go through on a day in and day out basis, and then you hear something like this. And so that it really makes you realize what's important in life and how lucky we are to be Americans and to have our freedom. And it kind of triggers the idea of making sure that we recognize the importance of what our veterans do every day. You know, everybody gets very patriotic on the 4th of July and Veterans Day, Memorial Day, but this is something now with this memorial that kids will be able to see every single day and remember why they have their freedom and how they have their freedom, and it's something that I just am glad that I'm a part of. I have a small token of appreciation from the State Senate. One, I have a resolution for Karen Brown Roberto, who is the widow of Charles Brown, if you could come up. This resolution is just thanking your late husband for all the great things that he did as a community member here in the Mahoning Valley for the state of Ohio and for our country. So thank you very much, Karen. And the second one that I have is for James Promensberger's daughter, Kristen Promensberger O'Neill, if you could come up. We appreciate everything that your father did, again, for this valley and for his country, and thank you so much for being here, and thank you for inviting me.
I have an apology to make at this time. In the program, our next speaker is listed as Major John Bocherry. I was unaware that apparently Major Bocherry has been promoted to Lieutenant Colonel. I know better. I was in the Air Force. I should have recognized it, and I apologize. Lieutenant Colonel Bocherry is commander of the 773rd Military Airlift Squadron at the U.S. Air Force Reserve Base in Youngstown, Ohio. And he's also one of my heroes. As an airman in Vietnam, I rode in a lot of C-130s, and I have a great deal of respect both for the capabilities of that amazing airplane and the pilots who fly them. As a pilot myself, once while doing an instrument approach into Youngstown Airport, I got crosswise with the wingtip vortices of a C-130 that had done a tactical approach and made a sharp right bank turn across my runway. I didn't realize that the Cessna aircraft I was flying at that time could fly upside down and backwards all at the same time. I think the Lieutenant Colonel can understand what I'm talking about. I apologize, I'm reading from a script. Lieutenant Colonel Bocherry was deployed both to Iraq and Afghanistan and will be leaving shortly again for Afghanistan, as I understand it. We appreciate his willingness to serve his country and to take his time this morning to be with us. Colonel Bocherry is going to be speaking on behalf of the shovel crew this morning. Sir.
Thank you, Larry. I'm sorry about that close call with the C-130. Perhaps you should call your congressman. On behalf of the 910th Airlift Wing, the 773rd Squadron, and the 757th Squadron, the two airlift squadrons at the Youngstown Joint Air Reserve Station, we are here today to recognize these two brave Americans. Every day, as Larry said, they question and make me ponder and wonder and just admit whether I'm worthy to wear this uniform as they have to defend our country. And I want to just touch upon the community and the effort that you have taken to come together. And thank you for someone who's still out there serving and the countless thousands of individuals from the Mahoning Valley, as well as across our country who continue to serve. We want to thank you for taking this time out to remember two brave Americans from our community here that continue to serve. And while we want to take this opportunity to remember their lives, this is an opportunity for us. Really, it is for us and all those who will pass by this memorial to think about their service, their sacrifice, and their commitment to a greater cause than themselves. And I want to speak for a moment about the gentlemen who served and who did serve and who are with us here today from Vietnam. We have many things in common, but one thing is different. One thing is different. We, and I say those who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan and those who served in Vietnam, we both served in Asia. You in Southeast Asia, us in Southwest Asia, in Iraq and Afghanistan. We both prevented the spread of an idea. Yours was communism, ours was terrorism. Both wars became unpopular back home, as we learned. However, when you came home, you were greeted with jeers. When we came home, we were greeted with cheers. We must never forget that whether we agree with our conflicts that send our young brave men and women across the globe to serve our country, whether we agree with any of those conflicts politically, those men and women wear the uniform and they serve only because our country asked them to. We thank them, we applaud them, and we thank them for their ultimate sacrifice. To the families of James Promensberger, to the families of Sergeant James Promensberger and Lieutenant Charles Brown, who have served so honorably, as the President said, we must remember that they are part of our history, the history of this community, the history of our nation. And whether that it's in the pursuit of prosperity for our people or for the struggle for equality for all our citizens, our commitment to stand up for values abroad and our sacrifices to make a world a safer place cannot be forgotten. And today, we use the bricks that were the foundation of the education of so many who passed through the halls of that school. We use the bricks that helped be the foundation of many lives who spread their wings and began to fly and help this nation prosper. It is only fitting that we would use those same bricks to provide the foundation of a memorial for two individuals that provided the foundation for our freedom.